Millions of Americans watching the debate tonight, either rooting on their candidate or trying to look to make a decision on who they're going to support in the election just a couple weeks away. One of those watching tonight was Missouri Western political science professor Melinda Kovach. She joins us live now. Good evening, Melinda. How are you?
Good evening, Alan. Very well, thank you, and thank you for having me tonight.
Well, glad to have you here once again. First off, let's get your first takes, I guess, of your takeaways from this evening.
It wasn't quite the class act that it could have been and that I had hoped it would be, but it was still a whole lot more civil than what we saw last week from President Trump and Vice President Biden in the presidential debate. My top line reaction is that unfortunately, it seems like even in a more courteous debate, politics is a sphere where a man will talk over a woman without thinking twice about it. I had expectations that the moderator wouldn't have to struggle as much, but she did have to struggle quite a bit, and Vice President Pence talked over her way too much for my comfort level.
The topic's very similar to the presidential debate last week. We talked Supreme Court, we talked coronavirus, healthcare, the economy, and so on. Did anything really new come from any of that?
I don't believe that there was new information necessarily. However, this debate gave us windows into the strategies and the policy positions of the two campaigns. And I think in that regard, it was a whole lot more valuable than the presidential debate because there was policy, there was substance, not necessarily new information, but clear statements of where each campaign stands.
You mentioned some talk of policy, which is a little more than last time. However, honestly, a frustrating part of the debate for me, which was a lot of it, was neither candidate addressing the questions directly that were given to them.
That is correct. However, they did not shy away or sidestep questions to an equal extent. And again, I think it's a gender difference that we see. Harris stepped away from some questions. Pence stepped away from, I believe, many more questions. But Harris never called Pence out on not answering the question. And when Harris refused to answer the question about whether the Democratic strategy is to pack the court, as they say, if they should win, Pence insisted and came back to this multiple times and said, let the record show that she didn't answer the question. So both of them sidestepped some questions. Pence used that more than Harris did, but she never called him out. He called her out.
So this was the one and only vice presidential debate. There may or may not be a second presidential debate. I think some of that's still under question based on the health factors involved with President Trump and his coronavirus. But Melinda Kovach, thank you so much for watching for us, for live blogging with us, and for joining us once again tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. All right. Well,